Hey, everybody, and welcome to Andrea M. Smith Live. I thank you so much for coming to my channel and taking the time to share in a conversation with me. Um, Today, I want to do a second part of a video I did called Why the Gender Wars in the Black Community Must End. Enough is enough. And the reason I did the first part of this video was because of a video I saw on a platform that just kind of provoked me a little bit to try and give some context as to what I believe is some of the reasons why we are where we are at this point. Um, and so with this video, I want to do the same thing, but I just want to go a little bit further. And so in this particular video, as you can see up under my name, it says Stop Vetting from Trauma. And I think that the reasons why we are having this divide is because people are looking to um, make sure they stay away from the person that they don't want to hurt them and not pay attention to the person that they want to love them. Right. So we spend a lot of time vetting for um, someone that's not going to talk to us in a certain way or not going to treat us in a certain way or who's going to respect us in a certain way or who's going to honor us in a certain way. But we just don't vet for the person who we really want to love us in a certain way, right? A lot of the platforms I notice give a lot of talking points about who to stay away from, but not very often do they tell you who to love, and not very often do they tell you how to be prepared for that person. You know, everybody's asking for something, but nobody is prepared for what they're asking for. And when I say not prepared, I mean not prepared because you have not done the work to make sure that you are capable of being the person that um, you want to be, right? Um, One of the things that, and a lot of times I'm hearing is, who to stay away from. You know, the woman that doesn't want to be accountable, the man that can't be a leader, the man that doesn't have a certain amount of money, or the man that doesn't know how to honor you as a woman, the man that's not intimidated by your strength, the woman that's masculine, the woman who is, modern and she doesn't know how to act in her feminine energy and so forth and so on. But when we slice all of that away, when you take all of that away, at the end of the day, those things, whether people, um, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Whether people exhibit those characteristics, personality traits, behaviors, or whatever, what does that have to do with whether or not you can be a good partner, right? So if she don't pick Pookie or Ray Ray, does that mean that you're still her best choice? If he doesn't pick a 304, as they say, then um does that mean you are still his best choice? Right? So we can tell everybody who to stay away from, but at the end of the day, are you still the person's right choice? That's the question. Am I the right choice? Am I the person that can love this man or this woman the way that they say they need to be loved? Can I honor them the way that they say? Can I celebrate them? Can I engage with them? Can I partner with them the way that they say that they need? That's the issue. Whether somebody is modern, whether somebody is traditional, whether somebody, agrees with the feminist movement, whether or not somebody, watches the manosphere, all of these different things. Those things have nothing to do with whether or not you can be a good partner, whether or not you can be a good husband, or whether or not you can be a good wife. None of those things have to have anything to do with it because none of those things are personal to you. Now, unless you into those things that I've just talked about, feminism is your thing, or being in the manosphere, or whatever the case may be, well, those are the things that you subscribe to, and those are the things that, and because you subscribe to those things, you've made them a part of who you are, or you use them as a foundation for who you are. Now, that's a different conversation. But if you don't use those things as a foundation for who you are, if you use for as a foundation for who you are is how you are built spiritually, where you are emotionally, where you are mentally, now that's a different conversation. So we have to stop vetting for trauma, right? And so, and before I go any further, let me just get some context to me for a little bit so you can understand why what I say or what what I'm saying, where it's coming from, right? Um, so I am 59 years old. I was married for 22 years. I was with my ex-husband for 24, and I am now about to be married again, right? Um, it is through the journey of the relationship and through the journey of my marriage and other things that were happening at that time that brought me to this place where I am when it comes to relationships and what I believe about mental health. Right now, while I know a lot of people will say, well, if you're divorced, what can you say about relationships because you failed? And I thought I've called myself a failure too. But what I understand is this: I don't claim to be an expert in marriage, but because of what I've been through and what I've worked through, I do believe I'm tested. And so, because I'm tested, I believe that what I say can be helpful, that what I say can be impactful. I'm not trying to be boastful, but I'm being real, right? So, having said that, I still say people should not vet from trauma, right? If you haven't prepared yourself for the person you want to be with, what are you asking for? If you're not ready, if you are still thinking about how somebody hurt you 3 years ago, you don't need to be looking for a relationship, nor should you be dismissing anybody else or talking about the character or the personality or the behaviors of somebody else. Because if there is a certain person that you're looking for, then the conversations that I'm hearing about certain types of people that you wouldn't date, what does that matter what they do? What does that matter? What does it matter if he's, what they say, dusty? What does it matter if he's a Pookie? Or what does it matter if he's Ray Ray? What does it matter if she's a 3 or 4? What does that matter? Because at the end of the day, if that's not the type of person that you're picking, if that's not the type of person you're preparing yourself for, then what they do and how they act and how they conduct themselves has nothing to do with you. That's not your choice anyway, right? So your focus should be on the person that you wish to choose. And if you have gotten in a mindset that the only person that's left is Pookie and Ray Ray, and the only person that's left is the 3 or 4 or whomever, or the woman who can't be accountable, then that means that you're just not prepared. Because if you're really an emotionally in a good emotionally and mental and spiritual place, you ought to be of the mindset that every woman is not like the 5 women that hurt your feelings, and that every man is not like the 4 or 5 men that hurt your feelings. Now, if you didn't do any work from the hurt, then you need to do that. Because what you should not be doing is vetting people based upon who hurt you and based upon the hurts that you didn't work to get over. And that's where we're having a problem. People have not gotten over where they've been. And we shouldn't dismiss where a person is, because I believe this: you can't understand a man if you don't understand his condition. And you cannot understand a woman if you cannot understand her condition. We both have been in hurtful places. We both have hurt each other. You've been in a relationship where you hurt somebody, whether you think you did or you're not. You've been in a relationship where whatever you did to that person took them to a space where it took them a little bit to gather themselves and prepare to be, to move forward and hopefully be in a better relationship. We've all been in that space. We've all been in a space where we've been hurt. We've all been in a space where we have hurt somebody. The issue is, what did you do? What did you change about you so that you won't do the same thing in the next relationship? We can talk about all of this stuff. We can talk about feminism. We can talk about modern. We can talk about tradition. We can talk about all of the outliers and the things that have happened that have separated us as Black men and women. We can talk about all of that. But after we talk about all of it, at the end of the day, are you still prepared? Are you still capable to engage in a healthy, loving relationship with somebody? That is the question. That's the question. And again, we can have conversations all day about who you need to stay away from. We can have conversations about all day about accountability, who's not accountable, who's more accountable, who's willing to be accountable, who won't take accountability. We can have conversations about that all day long. But the issue at the end of the day is this: whether or not a man or woman is accountable has nothing to do with whether or not you can be a good partner in a healthy, loving relationship. Because it's all about what you bring. It's all about what you bring. And I know when we have the, they have these conversations about, what you bring to the table and all of that. That is a valid question. Maybe it can be posed a different way. I don't know. Some people find that to be a very imposing question. Some people find it to be a question that shouldn't be asked automatically. Some people find that it's a question that should be asked maybe later on down the line. But at the end of the day, whether you ask it in the beginning or if you ask it later on, you still want to know what somebody brings to the table. People have been asking that question and maybe not saying it in that way. But even if I don't say what you bring to the table, I still want to know who you are. I still want to know who you are. And whether I say it after 3 dates or 5 dates, I still want to know who you are. And you should be able to express to someone who you are. You should be able to say it. But now we're having these conversations, and I tell you, they are premised in, they are built on the hurts and experiences that people have had. So everybody is trying to get away from the person that hurt them, that caused them great pain, that caused them to question their confidence, question who they are, question their capabilities, took them into a place of depression, whatever it was, whatever that experience was. Nobody wants to be with that kind of person again. Great. But that doesn't absolve you from the responsibility of getting yourself together so that you can make a better choice. If every woman in the world took accountability, does that still make all the men great partners? If every man in the world, right, wasn't, what did they talk about? Men being misogynist, or, if every man didn't talk about women being submissive, does that still mean that you're a great partner? No, it doesn't. We're talking about things that have nothing to do with whether or not you can be a good partner. That's it. We're not talking about, we're not making the main thing be the main thing. We're talking about all of these other things that have nothing to do with whether or not I am capable of loving somebody, whether or not I'm capable of being loyal, whether or not I'm capable of being trustworthy, whether or not I'm capable of being with you in a crisis, whether or not I can just on a basic level respect you for who you are. We keep vetting people so that we want to make sure that they're not the person that I left. And you cannot do that. You cannot. When you vet people because you want to make sure that they're not the person that hurt you, now what you do is you don't give that person the opportunity to express who they are. You don't get to know exactly who they are. And some of the conversations that we are having, again, and I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but we're having conversations about stuff that don't mean nothing. It doesn't speak to who you are as a man, and it doesn't speak to who you are as a woman. It just speaks about the people you don't want to be around. Okay, so how long will we continue to have that conversation? Everybody has somebody that they believe is not for them in a relationship. Everybody has that person. But again, that has nothing to do with whether or not you can be a good partner. If she comes perfect, are you perfect? If he comes perfect, are you perfect? Nope. Because perfection doesn't exist. Relationships are built on accountability and maturity. It is a requirement. It is a requirement. And if you don't bring those two things, coupled with emotional, mental, and spiritual and a spiritual foundation, it doesn't matter where they've been. It doesn't matter anything. Anything, nothing else matters, whether they're traditional, modern, don't know how to walk in their feminine, don't know how to walk in their masculine, all of the other things. It doesn't even matter. You have to deal with where you've been so that you can get to where you want to go. Some of you have listened to some of these platforms, you are so entrenched in the talking points. You're so entrenched in what people say that when somebody even agrees with your point, you don't even hear it. I have been on platforms and I have made comments and I have had people come back to me and say, see, that's what I mean. See, that's what I mean. Taking it right back to the man. When I gave a compliment, when I said that he was right, but because the person is so programmed to hear or to respond in a way that is negative, in a way that says that, that the man is not being supported or that the man is being blamed, that they don't hear when they're being supported. They don't hear when they're being encouraged. They don't hear when what's being said to them is being said to them to protect them. And it's the same thing with women. We have been in conversations and we are so entrenched with our responses that when a man comes to you and he's genuine in his affections and he's genuine in what he's trying to do, you see it as a red flag. You call him toxic. You looking to see if he's a narcissist. Why? That's because you're not where you need to be. That don't have nothing to do with him. If you see every man as a narcissist, that has nothing to do with men. That has everything to do with you, and you need to work that out. And it is the same thing with men. If every woman you see and you always tag her as a woman who doesn't take accountability, that is not her. That is you. Some of you are so programmed. You're programmed to respond. Women don't take accountability. Women don't want to. Women don't want to walk in their feminine. Women don't want to be led. You are so entrenched in that. When a woman stands before you, who is the exact opposite of that, you still tag her as that. And that's because you're programmed. That's because you're programmed. And it's the same thing with women. You've been in these spaces and everything he does, if he don't do it this way, if he don't do it that way, if he don't do it quick enough, he's either a narcissist, he's either toxic, he's either dusty. And then when the dude that comes, that's prepared, that can give you exactly what you ask him for, you cannot recognize him. And you give the program the response. Some of you need to be debriefed. Some of you just straight need to be debriefed. Because you have allowed social media to dictate who you are. You have allowed social media to dictate what is good for you, what is not good for you, who's good for you, who's not good for you. And that should not be. Who is good for you should be dictated by the standards that you have set for yourself. Who is not good for you should be dictated by the standards that you have set for yourself. Not what a platform says, not what a YouTube group think tank says. But it should be about what you have, how you've grown, how you've matured, and how you've developed. We should not have this back and forth about who hurt who more. We have hurt each other. We've hurt each other. Listen, we as a people have been through some things that have been difficult and challenging. I come from the era where when, you had to be in the house at, before the light came on, right? Before the street lights came on. I come from the era where we had a sense of community, and community meant that, if we were outside playing and Miss Mary saw us acting a fool, Miss Mary got to say, knock it off. And if your mom found out that Miss Mary told you to knock it off, that was going to be a problem. That was the sense of community that we had. That's what we had. And granted, I will even say that, even in in my growing up, there were things that, my mom didn't agree with, my dad didn't agree with. They thought it was too much, just like, I have a 26-year-old son. And some of the, he's in a time of technology and all of these different things. And, you know, I don't agree with some of the stuff either. But that has nothing to do with whether or not he can be a good partner for somebody. Things change, generations change, things evolve. But that has nothing to do with whether or not you can be a good partner to somebody. Whether or not you can be a good partner to somebody is determined by what work you have done on yourself. How self-aware are you? Some people are just not, you're just not self-aware. You don't recognize that you don't listen well. You don't recognize that you hear what you want to hear. You don't recognize that you don't know how to tamp down your emotions so that you can hear what the person is saying and not what your emotions told you that they're saying. A lot of us are having arguments about things that the person didn't say because we didn't take the time to listen. We didn't take the time to pull our emotions in and take a moment to hear what they said. And so now we're arguing about what people didn't say. What they didn't say. So here we are. How do we get better? You start right here with you. Start with you. You can stay on the platform all day and talk about how somebody won't take accountability and talk about somebody who's narcissistic and they're toxic and all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, when it is time for you to engage in a relationship, are you prepared? After you talked about everybody being a narcissist and toxic and dusty and a Pookie and a Ray Ray and a 304 and a something to the something, after you've laid out all those tags, who are you? Who are you? What man are you prepared to receive? What woman are you prepared to receive? That's the question. That's the issue. And I'm going to do another video. After this one, I'm going to do another video where I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the platforms in particular. And I'm going to talk about it from a different perspective, not to bash it, not to down it, but to try to give some context. Try to give context to why, in particular, and it's going to be about the manosphere, but why Black men feel the way they feel. Why they feel the way they feel. So you can understand it. And I will have to say that in my getting to understand it, it is one of the reasons why I believe that the communication that I have between the communication my fiance and I have is because of the understanding that I came out with by listening to some of those videos with him, listening to them for myself, and us sitting down having conversations. See, I'm all about the results. We could talk all day about who said what and why it is and who was, and who was hitting the point and who had it and who. We can talk about all day, but that don't have nothing to do with whether or not you're ready for a relationship. And so I'm just saying, before you go on another platform and make a comment, before you go on another platform and say how somebody is this and somebody is that, and they don't get this, why you keep talking about us like that, and why you keep talking about us like this, and before we get into all of that, are you prepared for what you're asking for? There's nothing wrong with us having these discussions. But if the discussions stay where we just continue to blame each other for something that both of us are doing, where's the change come from? It's like we have these discussions like the only person that's doing something is Black men, or the only person that's doing something is Black women. That in itself is foolish. That in itself is foolish. It is one thing to have a discussion to say, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I think would help. opposed to having conversations that make it seem as if you the person that's doing the right thing, and the reason why we in the mess we in is because you won't stop doing what you're doing. No, we're in the mess that we're in because both of us won't stop doing what we're doing. Both of us won't stop blaming. Both of us won't become more self-aware. Both of us won't take accountability. Both of us won't mature. Both of us don't understand that, that accountability is required. Both of us are disrespectful. Both of us. And so when we get to the place where we understand that what I'm blaming you for, I might be doing myself, that's when it changes. It don't matter who she picked. It don't matter if she didn't pick you. It don't matter if he didn't pick you. People have options. That's what they're called. They're called options. And people get to do that. They get to choose who they want to choose. Don't make you a bad person. Don't make you a bad man. Don't make you a bad woman. Just means they didn't choose you. They just opted not to be in a relationship with you. But there is a way that we can have these conversations that can be respectful, that can be mature, and that we can get something out of it so we can move forward and learn how to treat each other better. Better. This got to stop. These conversations, they need to stop. I hope I said something to help you tonight. I hope that, you come into the comments and you make you make a comment to this. I hope that you will say something that is helpful. Say something that's thoughtful. Say something that's going to be impactful. Say something that's going to move the conversation to a more positive place. Say something in the comments that's going to, shrink the divide, right? And increase unity. That's what we need. Everybody been with somebody that jacked them up. We did that already. Everybody's been with somebody that jacked them up. Everybody been with somebody that took advantage. Everybody's been with somebody like that. But at the end of the day, what's going to determine whether or not you can be with the person you really want to be with is the work that you've done for yourself. And if you keep vetting for a person because you're trying to make sure that they're not who hurt you, and you're not vetting for the person who can love you, you will stay where you are. You will stay where you are. Like, share, and subscribe this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a good night.